Sage Field Operations is going to first and foremost be a cloud-based project management application. It is integrated directly with project management to provide that real-time information that you might be looking for in order to keep track of your jobs or projects. This is also going to be a time tracking tool and will integrate directly with your payroll module in 300 construction and real estate. If you're not using payroll in 300, you also have the ability to export any time entries within the system that can be sent into an additional payroll module. This solution does have a responsive design, meaning that the screen will change based upon the device that you're looking at. If it is a smaller device, it will move into a more user-friendly design. And again, just keep in mind that this is going to be directly integrated with Sage 300 Construction and Real Estate, and that way you have the ability to manage your jobs or projects in a real-time basis. So just to cover the licensing and the license types as far as Sage Field Operations is concerned, one standard license is required for the Sage Field Operations platform. This person would have full visibility into the solution with real-time project management visibility. They would also be able to determine the security settings for each user and determine the settings that would work best for your company. This solution is meant to save your office staff time and eliminate paperwork as well as manual data entry. So rather than receiving all of the information that your field employees had entered or recorded throughout the day and having to manually key that in, all of the information would be available within your accounting system already. Sage Field Operations will also provide tools that your field employees would find beneficial to increasing productivity and efficiency on the job site. So they can easily schedule and enter time into Sage Field Operations. And users would have the ability to see the full site history pertaining to each job, including previous RFIs, sketches, percentages of work complete, and more. So anything that is already currently within your project management module of Sage 300 would be visible in Sage Field Operations as well. Sage Field Operations eliminates the need for paperwork and significantly reduces the manual data entry and the possibility of duplicate entries. And within Sage Field Operations, you would also have the ability to create custom forms that can replace some of the other documents you might currently be using and eliminating the need for paperwork in this regard. These custom forms can be used to capture additional information that may be needed on the job site. Otherwise, you may find that some of the options that you're currently looking for are already available within Sage Field Operations. And keep in mind that all of the options that we've covered so far and that we'll be going over today are going to be user specific. So that gives you the ability to choose who does what with the software. And with that, let's go ahead and take a look at Sage Field Operations. So the first screen that you're looking at is going to be the resource scheduler. So this can be a good area for anyone to keep track or schedule out assignments for all of your employees. And we are looking at all of the employees within the system currently. We also have the ability to create different groups just so that we can consolidate the view. So if you have certain field employees that have special skills or often go out together, you can create those different groups within Sage Field Operations and consolidate this view accordingly. So currently I'm looking at a weekly view. I can also look at a daily view or even the next 2 weeks or even the next month. And as far as 6 months out in advance, just to keep track of all of those projects and keep track of any PTO or any information that may be needed further in advance. On the left-hand panel here, I do have a job lookup. So this will be searching for the different jobs that you might currently have within project management. And underneath that, I do have the visibility into one of the jobs that we're currently working on. And I can see all of the different cost codes for this particular job. So under the cost codes, I can see the estimated hours, the actual hours, and the variance between the two. And that way we'll know if we ever do go over the estimated hours, we would see that as a negative number. We can also use these cost codes to schedule out assignments for our employees. So for instance, if we wanted Danielle to actually go out and do a final cleaning on today, we can drag and drop that cost code onto their schedule. This will create an automatic entry, and the timing for this entry can be a default within the system, so you would choose what you would want that to look like. So from here, I also have the ability to create assignments for all of my field employees, and I can do that by using this Add Assignment option under the More tab. When we're adding an assignment, we can choose whether it's going to be a job or miscellaneous. So from here, we can choose from the drop-down menu which job this is going to be. And then the appropriate cost codes will show up for that particular job under the cost code list. You can also consolidate this list on a per user basis if certain employees only work on certain cost codes, or however you would like that to look. If you are using extras for any of your jobs, that would also consolidate the cost code list to apply to that specific extra. So from the drop-down menu, we can choose the appropriate cost code, which will automatically fill in with the appropriate category. If this needed to be changed, we could, of course, change that directly from here. And then we have some options as far as assigning this to an employee or a subcontractor. So if you are subcontracting out portions of your work, you can also schedule the subcontractors. They can actually receive automatic notifications via email. And otherwise, we can just have that on our list so that we have visibility into that resource allocation. If when you're creating a new assignment, you are a supervisor of other employees within the company, you can choose from the drop-down menu who are going to be the appropriate users to go out for this assignment. You can also choose a priority if you're using priorities, and these will have a color coding or color context associated with them. As far as the scheduled start and end time, you can choose from the calendar. If this was going to be for multiple days, you can choose throughout the calendar. We're just going to be scheduling this out for one day for today. And then we can choose the appropriate time for them to start and for when they will end. Alternatively, if you just wanted to choose the scheduled amount of hours, how long they're supposed to be at this particular job site and working on this cost code, you could enter in the scheduled amount of hours from here. So you can choose one or the other out of these different options. And then if you are working off of a phone or a device that offers dictation, you can use these notes fields, and you can actually use talk to text for them so that you can speak out what the description or maybe the assignment notes is actually going to be. And then if I wanted to quickly go through and create more assignments for, other employees, I could go save and new. Otherwise, I will just choose to save the assignment. And that will be added not only to the resource scheduler that we're currently looking at, but also to this employee's assignments page. So the assignments page for each of your employees is what they're going to be basically living off of. This is where they have the ability to create their own assignments, record any time that has been associated with an assignment. And I can also see this in a weekly view. So if I wanted to see everything that was coming up for the week, I could toggle this over so that I'm looking at the full week. Otherwise, I can move back into the daily view where I can see all of the assignments I have for that day. And as I start to record time, this daily total will start to accumulate, as well as my weekly total. So from here, I'd be able to see all of the regular time. If you have an automatic transfer into overtime, they would also be able to see that labeled out in this section. From here, your field employees can also submit their weekly time, which will then trigger a time review process that you might want to implement when using Sage Field Operations. So once they submit that weekly time, you would be able to see the steps as far as who is going to review that time in this time review section over here. And then down at the bottom, this key essentially will always be here just to give your employees some context as to their assignments and the color coding with each of those. From the side drop-down menu, I can add activity. I can use the punch actions. So this is going to be one of the options as far as recording time within Sage Field Operations. So they can either punch in and out of work, or they can actually record a specific amount of time that they have associated with that particular job. And in order to do that, from the assignments page, they can add a new assignment time. So rather than using the assignment, use this assignment time. And this is going to ask for the start and end time or the particular amount of hours that was associated with that job. So some of the options are the same. You choose the job, cost code, who you're recording this time for, and then the pay type, union, union local, union class. Those are all options to show on this page. You don't have to show them, but they would have the drop-down menu to choose from if they are union, as well as the pay type they can choose from there. So from this section, I still will want to choose the appropriate start and end time, or I can choose the specific amount of hours. So when I'm making these entries, it is still going to be updating my project management module as well as the payroll module on an automatic basis. So you would be able to see all of these entries as soon as they're entered in by any of your employees. So with entering that time frame in, I can see that my regular hourly pay added up to 8 and the overtime pay added up to 1 hour. So I can see that that is starting to accumulate for this particular week. For the assignments that are on your assignments page, you can either use this drop-down menu or you can drill down into the job number to have an overall view of the assignment. If this is a punch in, punch out assignment, I would have those options directly from here. And then I can also see any of the job details, which is more of a supervisor or superintendent view into the software. So if I wanted to look at all of my jobs or projects that I might have within the system that are current, I can go into this jobs listing here. And as a superintendent or supervisor, when I drill down into the number, I can see all of the data or information that has previously entered for this particular job. So you have the option to edit the team, so you can choose which employees, which subcontractors, and which equipment are going to be used for this job, and you can edit that at any time. There are some job settings that you can enter or edit the job details, and all of these are going to update your project management module. So from here, I get a brief overview of this particular job. And if I go down into the job estimate, I can see all of the cost codes, the last time that this cost code was worked on, the estimated hours, unposted hours, and total hours to date, and all of the information that you would really need in order to keep track of all of your jobs or projects at any time as a superintendent or supervisor, maybe project manager who is looking at this information. So under the assignments section, I can see all of the employees who are scheduled to work for this job today. And if I was a supervisor, I could check all of them for the day, and I can actually do an all punch action. So if you're a supervisor, superintendents, project managers, I know I've been saying those words a lot, but if they are tracking time for all of your employees or multiple employees, they can use this all work start action from the top. And I have another assignment that's already started that would need to be suspended before using that option. But just know that that is an option if you would like to move forward with punch actions. Under the RFIs is where I can see a previously entered request for information. I can actually create a new RFI from here. So I would choose the appropriate priority, the date, the spec section, as well as entering a subject. And then I would choose who is going to be notified, the question that's being asked. The receive number can be edited afterwards, so I wouldn't need to enter that now. And then of course I can enter a category as well. And when I actually create the RFI and finalize the RFI, that would be sent out to the appropriate person. And that would be sent into their email so that they can actually provide more information as far as this RFI is concerned. If you do have any contracts for after the construction is completed, the Sage field operations, or more the Sage service operations side of this software, will keep track of any work orders that are created for this job after the fact. We can also see production units and edit these at any time. So if I needed to add an estimate for any production units, I could add those directly from here. And after they've been added, I also have the ability to export to Excel. I can also add information for the production units log. Again, I can export this. And then under the report section is where any of those customized forms could be created. So like I said earlier in the presentation, you can create custom reports. And these would be to capture any additional information that you don't see on the screen here, because all of these different fields are going to be directly integrated with certain pieces of project management, whereas the reports will create an attachment or a PDF, and they will be saved within Sage Field Operations. And once any of those reports are created, or if you wanted to add any attachments, we could do that from this bottom section. So if I wanted to add any images as far as the job is concerned, I could choose from my files. And if you are working off of a phone or a tablet, this would take you directly into your camera roll. So you would want to enter a title, maybe a brief description. Again, this will be talk to text enabled. And then you can choose a category which will have certain search capabilities. And once that picture has been added, you can also sketch up the image. So once that appropriate image has been added, we could choose that background image, and then we can use some of the stroke features, with different colors, different fill options, and enter those onto the actual picture. Now this can also be sent out to any particular person. So if I wanted this to be sent out to someone, I would enter in their emails. If there are multiple, you separate with commas. And once you save the sketch, that will be added to the attachment section of the overall job. And then under the daily field reports section is where additional information can be added. So if I move into one of the daily field reports that have been created, this was a previous one, so I wouldn't see the assignments here, although if this was the same day, I could see all of the assignments the same that I would on the overview. This is just an additional area to capture more information. Under the notes, I can add in journal entries. So this would be more of a daily journal entry than the overall notes. So we could choose the category, which will reflect the drop-down menu that you currently have in project management, enter in a brief description. And then we have a lot of custom notes fields. So if you're not using custom fields, you can just kind of ignore these. But if you wanted to add a different title as far as each of these for your users to actually add additional information, you can use these custom options. Then we also have an additional note down at the bottom, and you can add canned responses for your field users to use, just a quick and easy note from a drop-down menu, and that can be added in the canned responses section of Sage Field Operations. So then some of the other options, we have the ability to record any subcontractors that have come out for that particular day, any work in progress activities, and this can be tied to any of your subcontractors or vendors as well. So this list is going to reflect the team that you have assigned to this particular project. And then you would choose from the appropriate people, the start date, the end date, the cost code that they were working on, then the new percent complete or the new production units in place. And you can use either of these options. You don't have to use both. And then of course we have more custom fields and then a note section down at the bottom. Some of the other options include the weather. If you're tracking weather precisely, you can add in the weather. And when you start to add in these options, some of them like the temperature and some of the other options will actually add in automatically. If you have any events that occur, for instance, an accident or any damage to the property or equipment, you can record those under the events. And then of course you can record any visitors, materials used. You can also record equipment. So if you wanted to show that one of your pieces of equipment had been used for a particular amount of hours, how long it was idle, and maybe whether it was owned or rented. We could enter all of those options here and even enter in the billable quantities. And keep in mind that not all of these options are required. You can enter in, as much information as you would like, and then these can also be edited within your accounting solution once the entries have been created as well. And last but not least, under the extra section of the daily field report is where you actually have the ability to create a change order, change request, or extra. So you can use these to provide details for any of the changes that might be coming up for any of your jobs or projects. So from here, we would choose the appropriate one. This won't auto number, so you can leave this number blank so that your accounting team can actually enter in the appropriate number. Then you can choose the subcontractor that this is associated with, if that's applicable, and of course a description, any notes, and then we have more custom options. Again, under the report section will be those custom forms that can be used at any time. For the custom reports, you do have some capabilities to require those or warn your employees out in the field as far as when they need to use them. So for instance, if I wanted my employees in the field to provide additional information above and beyond what you see on the screen here before creating the daily field report, that can definitely be accomplished. And once all of the appropriate information has been added, you can actually create a daily field report from here. And this can be customized, to your likings if you have any legal jargon that you wanted to be added, or of course it would have your logo, all of that information, but this would create a PDF of that report and could be sent out to any of the appropriate people. And then again, under the attachments section, we do have the ability to add more pictures or sketches. And then of course, we can email the content out to anyone who might need to see that, if it's the project owner, project manager, whoever that might need to be that needs more context as to how this project is going.